Howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. It's another nighttime video. It seems to be the only time these days I have time to do videos is in the evening. So I have, you see our beautiful set behind me in our office. We got it updated. You saw that video, I hope. Hope everybody saw that video. If not, why not? Why didn't you see that video? Anyway, so I managed to get my lighting set up a little bit better for my evening videos. I have a light right in front of me. It shines right on my face. It's an incandescent bulb, so it gives me that nice little yellow glow instead of that washed out bluish white light you get from LED lights. But anyway, I digress. The point of this video is I want to update you on my moving to Linux. So yeah, what's all that about, Joe? And let me say right off the bat, I hope this video doesn't disappoint any of you that were wanting to see me go to Linux. Let me qualify this. Linux is a fine operating system, but it is not Windows, and it's not OS X for that matter. It's just not stable enough for me. This has been my problem with Linux for years. I get all hyped up and excited about it, and then when I start using it, I find out there are problems. I do research on them, find out I can't overcome them, or I can't overcome them easily, and I go running back to Windows. So let me tell you what my issues are with Linux as I see them. So I use OBS Studio, I use Google Chrome, I would be using Kdenlive for my video editor. Kdenlive works fine. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but I was willing to make that jump because I'm paying $20 a month for Adobe Premiere, because you can't buy Adobe Premiere anymore. But I know what I know what to do using Premiere. Now Kdenlive, I have had no problems with it at all. It's a little slower rendering videos, but that could be because of the machine I was doing it on. But I've edited several videos on Kdenlive, and I have no complaints about it. And I know it's just a matter of me not knowing how to tweak it and make it work like I'm used to doing my workflow in Adobe Premiere. But that's not the main reason why I have chosen at this time not to go to Linux. Now, my biggest issue with Linux has always been that out of box, it requires a lot of tweaking. It requires a lot of time to get it set up exactly like you want it. Now, it's gotten a lot better. In fact, Linux Mint 18 and Linux Mint 19 are two of my favorites. If I'm going to, and I'm still going to Linux. On that desktop behind me, it still has Linux on there, Linux Mint 19. But in my day-to-day operations, I'm sticking with Windows for now. The big thing, like I said with Linux, is the fact that it is too easily broken. Well, I know Windows 10 can be easily broken too, but I know how to fix Windows 10 if it breaks, and I haven't had it break on me yet. I've had Microsoft push out some really annoying updates and installing some application software on the computer without my knowledge. I probably consented to it when I clicked the EULA. But if you saw my Windows, Microsoft, you pissed me off for the last time video, I went on kind of a rant about Windows 10, and I'm still justified in saying that. But it is, compared to Linux, it's stable. It's got one group of people working on it in a corporation, and it's pretty damn stable. I know that from day to day it's going to work consistently for me. Linux, I don't know that. There's just so much tweaking. Here's the other thing: when you go out onto the forums to get help, I don't get a lot of help. I get a lot of, did you read the manual? Did you it's this or it's that or it's the other. Nobody's really helpful when it comes to problems. It's really hard to find a lot of the answers. So that's item number one against Linux, is the amount of tweaking required to get it to work reliably day after day after day. That's one of my main complaints. Now, I use OBS to do my video capturing and to capture my screen images, my computer information, and I use Google Chrome because everything's in there that I need, all my shortcuts, all my bookmarks and everything. It's stable under Windows, as is OBS. I mean, it's dead solid. I'm running OBS 21.1.0 on my Windows machine, and I never have any trouble with it. Google Chrome, I could never get the screen capture under OBS to work properly. When I did get an image out of Google Chrome on Linux, I would get screen tearing. Or I would get flashes of video while I was recording. And if you know Tom over at Lawrence Systems, he's having the same problem I had. And trust me, if Tom hasn't found a solution to it yet, I'm probably going to play hell trying to find a solution to it, right? This is part of that stuff I'm talking about out of the box. If Linux is ever going to make it on the desktop mainstream, they have to fix these things, these compatibility issues. But you have all these people touching the Linux pie and development going here and there and yawn and whatever, and there's really no standard to Linux. And so when I bring up these issues with the Chrome browser, or when I bring up the issues with OBS, if people don't have a machine like mine, they're not using it like I am, they can't help me with it. And going through the process of submitting bug reports and that kind of thing, I don't mean to be a snob about this, but I don't have time to do that. Now I know Linux is free, and you get what you don't pay for, as they say, but that's a real deal killer for me. I mean, if I can't capture video and I can't use Google Chrome with OBS without having all these problems, it's a deal killer for me. Now, in Windows, because Microsoft maintains Windows, they maintain all the DLLs, they maintain all the stuff. They have rules and regulations for media codecs and that kind of thing. And usually when you install a piece of software, you know it's going to work under Windows. Not so much with Linux. You can do updates to Linux that will break the operating system to the point where it won't even boot anymore. I know, I've had it happen to me. Now that as time has progressed, it's gotten less and less likely. The multimedia codecs, you have to install them separately and hope that you get the right one, or you can't do video and audio. You have video and audio problems with Kdenlive if you don't have the right mix of multimedia codecs installed. Folks, it should work. For example, when I install a Windows application, it comes with everything it needs to run under Windows. When I install a Linux application, for example, like Kdenlive, it should come with everything it needs, including the codecs, any drivers or any pointer files or whatever. It should come with it, in my estimation. That isn't what happens. And a lot of times you can update one thing and it'll break something else. So, yet another strike against Linux. I need stability. And then there's this has been going on with Linux ever since I've used it. And maybe it's only me it's happening to. But I consistently can never get transfer speeds across my network above 70 or 80 megabytes per second. Or megabytes per second. I have had people, try this and try that. And it's your network card. And it's this and it's that and it's this. That machine that's behind me right now, I have run Windows 10 on it. It gets 100 megabit transfer speeds. It's the onboard Realtek network card. Works great, no problems. I've run Hackintosh. I've run OS 10 on that machine behind me. It's an i5 16 gig of RAM Realtek network card. It runs at 100 megabytes per second. No problems. I never get less than 100 megabytes unless I'm copying small files. Linux, whether it's Linux Mint 18, Linux Mint 19, whether it's Ubuntu, whether it's Debian, I've run them all on there. The best speeds I've been able to get are with Linux Mint 18. I was getting about 80 to 95 megabytes per second. Then I put Linux Mint 19 on here. It's got a different kernel, and now the speeds have dropped down to about 70 to 80 megabytes per second. I cannot tolerate that. I have a gigabit network. I need my machines to run at gigabit speed, and not one person has been able to tell me why it won't achieve gigabit speed running. I've tried different versions of Linux. I've even tried a different network card in there. I put an Intel PCI Express NIC card in there. Still, 70 to 80 megabytes per second is the best I can do. Folks, it's just unacceptable. One of the things I really liked about Windows 10 was SMB3, and they really improved the throughput on the network on Windows 10. I consistently got 100 megabytes per second on Windows 7 as well, but they just do it better on Windows 10, and it's running the new version of SMB. So, I mean, that is a huge deal for me. I deal with video files, which are huge, gigabytes in size. I deal with ripping video and ripping Blu-rays and that kind of thing. These are huge files. I move data around all the time. I cannot do it at these slow speeds. It adds time to my day and to my workflow, and it's just, I'm not going to tolerate it. And now, Linus Torvalds made the announcement the other day that he is leaving the kernel development team for a while, whatever that means, of Linux. So what does that mean for Linux? I don't know how their development team works. I know the development team only write the kernel for Linux, and you have a whole bunch of other people out in the community writing applications for Linux and writing, the desktop managers and that kind of thing. But Linus is the key to all of this, right? Not Linus Tech Tips, Linus, but Linus Torvalds, the guy who wrote Linux. So what does that mean for the future of Linux? What does it mean? I've got to have some guarantees that moving forward, I'm going to be able to use it. Now, I know Linux is not going away because Linus decided to go do something else for a while. But it kind of, people look at Linux and go, oh, that's another reason I may not want to use Linux. So there's that. So what are my options? Well, my main option is to continue on with Windows 10, which is what I'm going to have to do on my desktop. I have a deadline coming up in October. I need to either renew my Adobe subscription for another year to Adobe Premiere, which is what I'm going to have to do. But, it's $220 a year, $240 a year, something like that. They bill you monthly, but you have to agree to a 1-year commitment. All right, so you got my money for another year, Adobe. And, Premiere does work. It works great for me. I've spent a year on it. I know how to use it. I don't know how to use some of the advanced features, but the basics are really all I need. I wish I could buy it for $300 and just own the damn thing. But, it is what it is. Maybe Adobe will come to their senses in a couple of years. We can hope, can't we? If I'm not happy with all these Windows 10 updates, I have options. I can block the updates. So there's ways to do it. I'm really not worried about the telemetry data. I mean, hell, just get on Google, just get on Chrome, just get on the internet. You're sharing so much of your information with people. You can see by the ads that are targeted to you. So privacy is not a big thing for me. I don't have anything to hide. I mean, I like my privacy, but I also need an operating system that just works. So I could go back to Windows 7, right? But it's just not feasible. Windows 7 will continue to be supported. You're going to find the applications that run on Windows 10 will run on Windows 7, but there are other benefits that Windows 10 gave besides the little tiles and the Microsoft Store, and that was SMB3. Huge improvements in the networking kernel, the portion of the networking part of Windows 10. So it's not really feasible for me to go to Windows 7. I could probably do it, but why, right? Now my other option is OS 10. I have a Mac Mini right there, back on the right there. That's a Mac Mini. It's an i5. It's only a dual-core i5. It's got I think 8 gig of RAM, and I put an SSD drive in there, and I use it mainly for supporting my Mac users, so that I have a Mac to keep familiar with. But I've run Hackintosh. I've run OS 10 on that i5, that Core i5 machine back there, and it runs fine. And Adobe Premiere will run under OS 10. I know how to get around an OS 10. I know how to make OS 10 sing. I don't have any trouble working with a Hackintosh. If you do it right, they're stable. And then eventually I could wean myself onto Final Cut Pro if I want to buy software for video editing. I could go to Final Cut Pro on a Hackintosh. I think it's $300 for Final Cut Pro, and then I would own the software unless I needed the updates. I mean, frankly, I haven't had an update to Adobe Premiere since last year. I've turned them off, told them I don't want the updates. I like the Adobe Premiere version I'm using. So that's an option too, to go to a Hackintosh. But you know, just to use a Final Cut Pro, probably not one of the better reasons, right? Well, so what does that mean? What is my choice? Well, I'm gonna have to stay with Windows 10, folks. I've got to support my clients. I've got to support end users. I've got to support, and I'm familiar with Windows 10, right? There are ways, like I said, to block the telemetry data. If you're worried about it, there are ways to block the updates and keep them from coming in. Windows has actually started listening to us now. You can defer updates 90, 180 days, to let other people test them. There are ways to set that up. In fact, I'll show you how to set that up right now. So I've chosen the dark theme. That's one of the things I like about Windows 10 too. They keep improving it. Update and security, you can go to advanced options and you can choose when your updates are installed. You can delay feature updates, you can delay quality updates, you can pause your updates now. You can give, you can pause them and you can defer them, or you could go on a different term, but you can delay them, I believe now, the updates up to a whole year. So thank you, Microsoft, for at least listening to us on that. So now I'm not quite so mad at Microsoft. So we gave it a good college try, and I'm not abandoning Linux. Linux has its uses. ESXi, Zen Server, they're all written on Linux. The thin clients that I've shown you I've used, they're not great for viewing video over a remote desktop, but they are a cheaper alternative to having to have a Windows license just to run remote desktop. So I guess I'm stuck on Windows 10, and I'll just have to suck it up. I mean, all things considered, with all the trouble and all the complaints and bitching I've done about Windows 10, it's been a pretty damn solid operating system, at least for this guy. So I hope you're not totally fed up and disgusted with my choice to stay with Windows, but and the other thing I don't want to hear from people is, well, you really didn't give it a try. I did, trust me. Starting July 1st is when I put Linux on that machine behind me, and I have been using it daily. I've been using it daily since then. I have edited a lot of videos on there. I have played around with it, and I have spent a lot of time and effort to try and get it to work the way Windows 10 does, and I have failed miserably through no fault of anybody but my own. I'm not going to play the blame game and blame the Linux community or anything. I knew when I went into Linux that it was going to be a little bit tougher than Windows, but I have a business to run. I have customers to take care of. My time is extremely precious to me. And while Linux has its place in some aspects of my business and my personal life, it's not what I use to make money. Windows is. So I got to stick with the Windows. How about you? So there you go. Thanks for letting me go on this rant. I appreciate it. And for those of you that are disappointed, I'm sorry to disappoint you. We'll still be playing around with Linux. It's not going anywhere. It's still on that machine behind me. And maybe if I resolve these problems in 6 months, I'll reconsider going to Linux again. But right now, like I said, Microsoft has listened to the complaints of people about these forced updates and these forced app installs, and they've given us a little bit of the benefit of the doubt and said, okay, you can defer your updates now if you don't want them installed right away. And they fixed the problems that they broke that my clients were having with old SQL servers and running old Windows servers. So I'm a happy guy. So it's just, and the support behind Windows, if you're in the corporate environment, is phenomenal. So I got to stay with the devil I know. You know what I'm saying? Well, anyway, we hope you found the video entertaining and informative. As always, please give us a like down below. Leave your comments down in the comments section. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and make sure you click the notification bell. I sound like a broken record when I say that. And please come back and see us again. Don't be mad, Twan, just because I decide not to go to Linux. Hope I haven't disappointed any of you. And if I have, oh well, get over it. We're all adults, right? And don't forget that we will see you on the other side.